You got Mahershala Ali replacing Wesley Snipes. That's been announced as Blade moving forward. You got Carrie Underwood replacing Katy Perry. Both of these stories viral today and in the news today. Based on that, I have a question for you, and it does tie into sports because we all know the story of Wally Pipp. Do you root for your replacement in life, on your day off, in your relationships?
I mean, I think it depends on where you are. Aaron Rodgers just said that, hey, with all that money Jordan Love just got, maybe he could buy my old house in Green Bay.
Well, it's interesting because in all of our years of talking sports and living life, I can only think of one guy that we've ever talked to that was honest about this, and that was on our show, Covino and Rich, at SiriusXM at the time. We talked to Barry Zito. You remember what he said?
Barry Zito.
Former Oakland A. That's what I think of.
And
Giant?
San Francisco Giant.
Yeah.
The guy just oozed the Bay Area.
That dude oozed curveballs. He had some nasty stuff.
He had great movement.
Yeah.
Barry Zito, great pitcher, really nice guy. He's a musician as well. If you follow Barry Zito, he
was a cool dude, actually.
Just a cut from the cloth of a really fun guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was honest with us, and he said if he was ever replaced in a rotation, spot start, he was a little banged up, injured, new team, whatever the case may be, he always wanted his team to win. But he's like, I can't lie to you. I never wanted my replacement to light it up. It's like those are the games you want to win 8-7 and your bats did the work. You don't want a spot starter to take 2 or 3 starts from you and have an ERA of 0.
And I love the honesty because you rarely hear it, especially in sports. And I've been noticing it just watching Jazz Chisholm light it up with the Yankees. And I'm seeing Verdugo, I'm seeing Glaber, I'm seeing LeMahieu. They're all giving their claps, but deep down in the back of their mind, they have to be thinking, oh man, we better step our game up or else he's going to replace us in the lineup. There's always that level of competition that people don't like to admit or talk about.
There's an honesty that exists in some places that doesn't in others. For instance, when we were kids, and you see this a lot on the Joe Montana Cool Under Pressure documentary, Joe Cool, there was no love lost between him and Steve Young. They were both vocal with the press, the media, everyone.
They both wanted the gig, yeah.
And Steve Young jokes that Bill Walsh, when they got Steve Young from the Tampa Bay Bucks, Bill Walsh was a bigger fan, believe it or not, of Steve Young and would tell him things like, yeah, Montana's almost done, don't worry. And then Montana goes on to win a few more Super Bowls. And, Steve Young waited, and you can only imagine the numbers Steve Young would have had if he had not had to sit behind Joe Montana for year after year after year after year after year.
Rooting for your replacement. Let's talk about it. Let's dive into it a little further. 877-99 on Fox. How about the next guy? Because I thought of this. Let's say you broke up. It's a matter of who did the dumping here.
That is true.
Right? I think that's what it comes down to. Like, for example, if your wife divorced you or your girlfriend dumped you, you're not rooting for the next guy. In fact, you're probably putting a hex on both of them.
That guy could eat crap.
Right. But if you had to do the breaking up and you felt bad about it and you had that guilt, like, oh, she was a nice person, but it wasn't for me, and you broke up with whoever she is, you're probably rooting for the next guy because you just want that guy to provide her with the life that you couldn't give her.
And it gets her off your back, too.
That's what I mean. Like, you want that guy to give her the love that she needed that you couldn't give her. So I think in that case, you're rooting for the next guy. Most of the time, you are not. I can't say that I ever was dumped and rooted for the next guy, ever. Not that I, rooted against them, but I never rooted for them, ever.
I mean, Drew Bledsoe was cracking jokes at Tom Brady's roast 20 years later. Still,
that was great.
You can tell it's funny, but deep down inside, you think Drew Bledsoe was rooting for Tom Brady's success?
But nobody's really ever honest about that. And it's like, who are you kidding? That's your competition. That's your job. That's your livelihood.
It's a weird lie we like to tell. There's a if you really want to put together the list of top lies people say.
Yeah, even if you're the most confident. You know what I mean? Like, Katy Perry did a great job. You really think she wants Carrie Underwood to do a better job? No way. You think Wesley Snipes wants Mahershala Ali to take the Blade franchise to levels it's never been before?
Every time there's a new Spider-Man or Superman or Batman, you don't think the previous one's like, I hope this guy stinks.
You as especially in sports, you want to be remembered as you were that better option. You were the best. That's just your human nature, in my point. I don't think you're ever rooting for someone to be better than you. Unless it's I got one. I got another exception. Unless it's your kid. I think as a parent, you want your kid to be better than you ever were at everything if you're a normal, healthy person. Right? Or maybe even your brother.
No, I don't root for my brother more than me.
I did. I never cared if my brother was the greatest whatever. I'd be so
I can
pumped
see that.
for him.
You know, when we're off and like Dan Byer and Monty fill in, I want the bosses to think they're better than everyone except us.
That's fair.
Very kind of you.
Isn't that fair though, DB? Isn't that fair and honest?
Well, I want to bring in Iowa Sam because Sam, what is my golden rule in all of this?
So whenever Dan is away, when he comes back, he wants to hear that the show's completely got derailed in his absence. He just wants to be valued in that way.
Yeah.
Like you cannot have someone fill in for Dan and they were just tell Dan that everything was derailed, even if it wasn't.
I want to hear about the chaos and how grateful they are that I'm finally back and that the ship is back on
DB,
track.
it's so great to see you, man.
Yes. My goodness, dude.
Isaac Lowenkron is unmanageable.
Yes.
Nick Cope, my goodness. Dan, thank you. You're back.
I want to hear how awful it was.
Yep.
I can't stand it when I go, how are the shows? They're like, pretty good.
I respect that honesty. I do.
Yes.
Doesn't Dan Patrick have a production bit where he says something about that when he's off? Isn't there a production bit
he
where
says, don't cheat on me with other shows.
Don't cheat on me with other shows.
Listen, I'm being honest when I said Dan Byer and Monty, I think they're as good or better than most shows on this or other networks.
I agree. Yeah.
But I certainly don't want the vibe to be that, man, they're just... Who's Covino Rich?
Yeah, let's say we're off, right? Let's be honest about this. We go to social media at Covino and Rich, and then we see all these people like, man, Dan Byer and Monty, I think they're better than CNR. You think we want to hear that? Absolutely not.
But you love it when somebody writes like, when are you guys coming back?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, enjoy Dan and Monty, yet you have got like goosebumps. You've got that tingly feeling that you're like.
Well, why are people so reluctant to be honest about that? Especially in sports, Dan. Especially in sports, you rarely hear someone saying like, yeah, man, it's good to see my replacement filling in for my absence. But
I have the answer, Covino.
Go ahead, Dan.
It's like in our industry. Say you're doing morning drive, and it is a grind. You're grinding your face off. All right, you're doing good in the ratings, but you're tired because waking up that early, doing morning drive for weeks and weeks in a row, you finally get a break. And then say they tab the afternoon guy or a guy on another shift who's not in this great morning time slot. And he gets to do that for a week. He goes balls to the wall, does all these new bits and games, and he's tap dancing, and he's doing everything he could think of to win the hearts of the audience. And a lot of times he does because it's something new and refreshing for the guy that's tired.
That's true.
After doing a whole year of morning drive. So when you get back, it's like, oh, that guy was great. But this is why some hosts, they want somebody that's just calm and kind of in between great.
So you think that's why Colin allows us to fill in? He's like, we're no threat to him?
I don't think our network does that, but I've heard some other shows where they on purpose will pick a host that is not so wonderful because, then there's no real threat there.
For the same thing.
That is really interesting when you think about it. When you really think, I'm going to be thinking about this later on tonight too, because the truth is, and again, it ties into sports completely. No one wants to be Wally Pipped ever, or Drew Bledsoe ever.
But right now,
nobody ever wants that.
You can't look at me with a straight face, or a gay face, or any face for that matter. You can't look at me with any face and tell me that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are rooting for each other.
No, I think they could appreciate the healthy competition. They'll push each other further. They could respect that as adults, but there's no way. No way.
Even within the Yankees clubhouse, you don't think deep down inside Giancarlo, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, when they're all healthy, you don't think they want to be the guy that hits more home runs? Like everyone, like you can't
especially in sports, because we're talking about the ultimate competitors, especially in sports. So again, 2 stories today. And they were like back to back. That's what made me think of this. Carrie Underwood's replacing Katy Perry. Mahershala Ali is replacing Wesley Snipes as Blade. There's no way that these dudes want them to do better. It's just how it is.
Good choice, by the way. When you think, I don't know why I didn't even click. Katy Perry was great on that show. Carrie Underwood's the most successful alumni on that show.
Yeah.
So it really is like a full circle
It's
moment.
kind of a push, too, and they're both kind of hot. So.
And they're both, but you know what? Carrie
And
Underwood,
successful.
because, I'm pop radio guru guy, I'm pretty certain it was 2005 when Carrie Underwood won American Idol. So 20 years after the fact, which is a pretty cool thought, right?
I was hoping Taylor Hicks was going to be the next.
Now you were rooting for Sanjaya.
I thought Bo Bice should have been the guy. But anyway.